Do you want to stay more focused on the right goals in your life, or even just figure out what the right goals are for you? Do you want clarity? Do you want better work-life balance? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to Success Through Failure.
Welcome to the Success Through Failure podcast, the show that reveals failure as your path to success. You'll listen to intriguing interviews with some of the most successful people on the planet and learn how their failures became a launchpad for success and how yours can too. Here's your host, former Division I All-American wrestler, former Division I head coach, speaker, and personal coach, Jim Harshaw.
Welcome to another episode of Success Through Failure. Today, I bring you Josh Spodek. Before I bring on my guest, I need to share something important. For years, I struggled to feel confident around the type of people that I spend much of my time with, successful people like millionaires, CEOs, leaders. Part of it was just mindset, but also part of it was how I looked. Look good, feel good, as the saying goes. And I didn't look good. I didn't have clothes that fit and made me feel confident. So I started buying expensive shirts, but then I had to get them tailored fit to me, an athletic build. Then I discovered a new shirt. It's not only designed by athletes for athletes, it's designed to fit an athlete's body type. And it's made of athletic material. It's like putting on your favorite workout shirt, but it's a business shirt. It's machine washable and it's wrinkle free, which is totally a deal breaker for me. I hate high maintenance clothing. And it looks better than my expensive shirts that I used to buy, and it even costs a little bit less. Now I feel just much more confident. I know that I'm wearing good-looking, well-fitted clothing that's designed to fit me. And if you want to see it, I shot a quick video of me opening my second shirt. Yes, I've now actually got 3 in my closet. But I show you the fabric and I show you the fit of this shirt. Just go to jimharshawjr.com/shirts. That's plural shirts with an S at the end. And grab a discount code for either free shipping or for 10% off. That's for my listeners. But jimharshawjr.com/shirts. And take a look for yourself. You can try one totally risk-free because it's free shipping for my listeners with that special discount code posted there at jimharshawjr.com/shirts. All returns, exchanges are free within 30 days, so there's absolutely zero risk to try one of these out. Again, jimharshawjr.com/shirts. This is my first time modeling clothing, so don't laugh. The shirt's awesome. My modeling skills, not so much. It's worth checking out the page just to see my bad modeling. So jimharshawjr.com/shirts. Josh he's actually my first ever repeat guest on my show. His insights into leadership last time we spoke were just fascinating. This is back in episode number 58. If you're interested in listening to that one, it's a great episode. And he just is about to launch his book at the recording of this. His book is titled Leadership Step by Step. So I wanted to have him back on to talk about what we might learn if we buy it and how this is different from other leadership books. It's absolutely fascinating, some of his insights. So I really wanted to have him back on. A little bit of a background on him. Josh is a professor at NYU and a columnist for Inc.com. He holds 5 Ivy League degrees, including a PhD in astrophysics, as well as an MBA. Both of those are from Columbia University, where he studied under a Nobel Laureate. He holds 6 patents. He leads seminars in leadership, creativity, sales, strategy, and motivation at institutions including Columbia Business School, Harvard, Princeton, and MIT. Not a bad group of schools. His coaching clients include startup founders as well as employees of Citigroup, American Express, Google, Yahoo, Sony, IBM, ExxonMobil, the U.S. Navy, U.S. Army, and lots of others. He's been quoted and profiled by ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, The Wall Street Journal, and others. He's also completed 6 marathons and competed at the world level in ultimate frisbee. His blog at is at joshuaspodek.com. It's for successful people who want to bring about more of that success. Josh, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be here. And, if I get to be the milestone that demonstrates the endurance and the lasting endurance of your podcast, I'm really honored. And I credit to you. It's really it's great to be back.
Well, thank you, Joshua. It's your interview about leadership was It was different. It was different than sort of most messages I feel like about leadership. I like the practicality of it, and I like the practicality of this book. I like the practicality of one of the things you brought up on the last step on the episode when I had you on episode 58. You talked about a SIDCHA. It's the self-imposed daily challenging healthy activity. You introduced me to this concept that you've developed, and with all of the guys, all the folks, men and women who have taken my course, Reveal Your Path, we have a private Facebook group, and I've sort of coordinated a SIDCHA. We do a different one every single month, and it's been really popular. And one of the things you mentioned in that last interview was you said, a lot of people say that I'm so disciplined, I'm so dedicated, which is why I do this SIDCHA. And you said, no, it's the other way around. It's doing this SIDCHA, this self-imposed daily challenging healthy activity, that makes you disciplined and that makes you dedicated. So I thought that was really practical, and I think this book is really going to be practical. I look forward to getting my hands on a copy. So it's Leadership Step by Step. Become the person others follow. Now, Josh, there are tons of leadership books out there already. Why another one?
So I'm glad you asked that, because it's not like I wanted to sit down and write a book, because that's a long, hard process. I felt compelled to do it after teaching for a while, because when I learned leadership in business school, what I learned was, I'm really glad that I learned it, but it was it was a traditional academic approach of lecturing and case study and reading psychology papers. And it makes a lot of sense why they would do things that way, because professors at universities, in fact, the more elite place you go, the more to rise to the top, the professors had to go through a publish or perish process. So they're really good at academic stuff. And what they prepare you for more than anything else, they might disagree with me, but what they prepare you for is to become a leadership professor, which is not necessarily a leader.
Right.
And so I learned about leadership. And what I found when I got out of school was that a lot of times I'd go into a leadership situation, I wouldn't really know what to do. I would go in thinking, I know exactly what to do. I'm going to do this and they're going to do that. I'm going to do this and they'll do that. And I'll lead them through the situation. But that's great when you're calmly planning beforehand. But when you actually get in the situation, it's social and it's emotional, and you start thinking about lots of different things and you forget what you were going to do. And there's a reason why athletes practice, because when the game is on line, when it gets really nervous, you fall back to what you practice. And what I didn't see was a book, or for that matter, a video or course or any resource that had exercises, things that you do to practice to develop the practice of what you do. So there's lots of books out there that are, Habits of Highly Effective People and Laws of Power and Laws of Leadership and things like that. And they give you this outline. It's kind of like, giving someone the rule book for basketball, but that's not how you learn to play. You got to dribble a lot. You got to take jump shots. You got to do layups. You got to have people playing D on you. And I did have, like, Marshall Goldsmith is one of my mentors, and he has been for a long time. And he's very clear. I'm not here to analyze your problems. I'm going to give you skills for you to succeed, for you to do better at what you're trying to do. I'm going to change your behavior. And he gives people exercises. And his exercises are very powerful. And 2 of them are in my book. He and I have worked together, so he's happy to have them in there. And I didn't do it behind his back. And what I noticed was that they're effective. They're simple to understand, although you learn a lot. So they're not necessarily easy to do. And kind of one way of looking at what I do is I've extrapolated what he did. Instead of having 1 or 2 exercises here or there, I have a whole set that fit together, so that you start with basics and fundamentals that, like a jump shot or layup, before the NBA finals, they're still practicing those same things. It's not like they're like only for beginners.
Right.
So you start with stuff that's like more simple, and then the next one is a little more challenging and a little more applicable. And the next one's a little more challenging, a little more applicable. And in my leadership course, it's 20 exercises. And by the last one, you're doing some stuff that even seasoned, experienced, advanced masters of leadership would benefit from learning.
I've read a lot of books, and I think my listeners are the type of people who read books. They're listening to podcasts, and we go through so much content. Sometimes we feel like, how do you really put it into action? You know, I was actually talking to a CEO recently, and he's like, and I was talking about the portion of my course where we call it selective programming. And it's like where we choose the different things that we're sort of filtering into our mind, you know, the podcasts and the books and the type of people we want in our lives. And he's like, you know, I feel like I need to do deselective programming because I listen to so much stuff and I read so much stuff. I just haven't put it into action. So it's very relevant. I think a lot of people are hungry for practical, actionable leadership guidance. So you have 20 exercises in this book. Can you take us through, let's say, 3 of your favorites?
Yeah, I want to add a little bit, if you don't mind my adding a bit first.
Please.
That when I was in grad school, I started grad school in physics, and when you're an undergrad, you take physics and math. And so I still wanted to learn some math. And so I went to this professor and I said, can you, in the department, it was like 1 floor away in the building. And I went to him and I said, can I come to you and learn some math with you? And he said, yeah. He was like really flattered, someone going out of their way to learn it. So he gives me a book and he says, get this book and work through some of the problems. And after you've worked through some, come back and we'll talk about it. So I come back and he says, okay, how far have you gone? And I go, I'm on page 80. And he looks at me, he's, wow, that's amazing. And he says, so how did you do? And he mentions a particular problem. And I go, I didn't do that. And he goes, what do you mean? I thought you said you were on page 80. And I go, yeah, I'm reading the book. He goes, I would rather you do the exercises and still be on page 1 than just read it and not actually do the exercises. You have to do these things.
Yeah.
And that was a big changing point for me. And I still have the notebook. That was in the early 90s, because that notebook means the world to me of going through these problems with him. And another thing was, I've talked about this a bunch recently. You know that my blog, I post every day. I've posted now, I'm approaching 2,500 posts. And so you can tell I've written a book, I've done that. So I do like writing. And people told me to write for a while. They were like, your ideas are really useful. So why didn't I write for a while before I started it? The reason I didn't wasn't that I didn't find value in it. It wasn't that I was enthusiastic about it. I wanted to. What got me doing it was someone sitting down with me and saying, this is WordPress. This is how it works. This is how to get a web page. And we're going to get this set up for you. Mm-hmm. And then when you started wrestling, do you remember the beginning? Did they say, all right, let's start wrestling? Or did they say, let's learn some basics?
Yeah. Basics, fundamentals.
And, I watch, say, like a bowl game after New Year's. And there's some guy playing quarterback. He's 20 years old. What does he know about life? And yet he's playing with tens, maybe hundreds of millions of people watching him. He's not. How do you process that? It's you have to practice. And if you practiced it, then you walk in. If you practice it enough and diligently enough, then when you walk into situations like I described before, you're not like trying to remember what you read in a book. You're doing what you practice.
Yeah. You can't read about being a quarterback and just become a good quarterback, right? You've got to go out and practice it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you gotta get hit and realize that you didn't die. It hurt like hell, but you got back up.
And now we're talking about leadership, something that people are so hungry for, especially, my listeners and people that are interested in personal and professional development. Leadership, right? We consume so much. We hear so much about it and we listen and we read, but now it's time to take action. Now it's time to turn this book knowledge into real practice. So how do we practice? What are some of these exercises?
All right. I'm going to tell you one. First, I'm going to jump to the middle of the book and talk about one of my favorite ones. It's called Authentic Voice. And the exercise teaches you how to speak with an authentic voice. And the value of being able to speak authentically is, I can't tell you how important it is. Here's one illustration. I was teaching leadership last semester, and it happened to be at NYU. It happened to be that everyone in the class I asked, they all voted for Hillary Clinton. And I said to them, forget about whether you agree or disagree with the politics. Forget about what they say, just how they speak. Who's more authentic, Clinton or Trump? And I can tell you, like, the Clinton supporters they did not like Trump. And they all said Trump spoke more authentically. And I think that had a major role in his getting elected, was that people felt like, for people who disagree with him, as much as they say that a lot of people call him like a narcissist, but the people who agree with him they say he speaks very well for them. That's authentic.
Sure.
That's authenticity. And okay, the big example though I think of is Muhammad Ali is, I think, the all-time master of speaking authentically. He was like a poet, but if you look very early, he wasn't so authentic. It came with practice, and he had a trial by fire on the world stage. So that makes you learn really quickly or give up really quickly. He obviously didn't give up. And okay, so the exercise is this. You know, when inside your mind, there's like a voice going on all the time, right? It's probably thinking now like, oh, what does my voice think? Oh, that's funny. Josh is saying things. That's what I'm thinking. Or one of my favorites is like when you're waiting for your baggage to come out of the airport carousel. I don't know about you, but I'm always thinking, I wish my bag would come. Where's my bag? How come their bag came first? I want my bag. Right. Man, my bag never comes first. Oh, there it is. Oh, right. I'm sorry. That one's black. Mine's blue. Okay, yeah. So, see, you're laughing. It's funny because that sounds familiar to you, right?
Sure.
And you've never heard it said before, right?
Right. You're inside my head.
And so the exercise is to do what I just did in real time.
Out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Now, for most people, that's really hard to do, but the reaction you get is often what just happened. It's like, is it fair to say that it felt kind of comfortable to hear that, like disarming?
Yep.
It creates a lot of empathy because when you speak that way, people hear it and a couple things happen. One is that you hear, you're like, well, I think like that too. That's interesting. Like they're just like me.
Yeah.
And then you also think, I wish I could do that. I can't. Oh man, they have something that I don't have. And that makes you a leader. That means one thing, that you're speaking genuinely, authentically, because you know that, wait, he thinks like I think. I'm more comfortable sharing with him. I'm more comfortable listening to him. Now, the reason I say that I point out that this one is in the middle is that I don't just say, if I made that exercise the first one, that would be for most people way too hard. Because most people think, wait a minute, you want me to take away that filter? I'm going to tell my friends what I really think about them. This could be embarrassing. I might tell some racist joke that I don't really think, but it might just come out, right? Like people have that concern. So it actually is the culmination of several exercises that build up to it. And in fact, it builds to others. So earlier in the course, in fact, the second exercise is, well, the third exercise, if you count the essay that you read at the beginning. And there's an exercise that I have, which is to write your inner monologue. And so that's to write that stuff down. And that has its own challenges because you can't write as quickly as you think. But I say to write like a few lines a few times a day for a week. So there's an exercise. You basically have to carry a pen and paper with you for a week, but it costs you nothing. And it takes only a few minutes a day. And at the beginning, it's hard. Like if I asked you to write down your thoughts, even if I just said the thing about the suitcase stuff, for you to write that would probably be pretty hard for you. But if you do it every day for a week, 3 or 4 times a day, that's 20, 30 times you practice it. By somewhere midweek, you start getting it and you start realizing how to pick out those thoughts. Yeah,
you're able to sort of find that subconscious voice that's so deep that we don't even think about it or hear it. You're slowly sort of identifying and shining a light on it and bringing it to the surface.
Yeah, it's funny that you describe it as deep because for me, it's at the very top because after you practice it, you start realizing that's actually, you have more access to that thought than almost anything in the world because the world around you, it's mediated through your senses, but this is more direct. It's right. It's in your mind. You're aware of it directly. So I think it'll switch for you that what you're calling hidden or deep will become obvious. In fact, it's a major piece of self-awareness. And in my blog post on this exercise is called the most effective self-awareness exercise that I know. And, the value of experiential learning is that, and one of the reasons I felt compelled to write this book and to make my courses is that when you get it, you have awareness of yourself that no book, no lecture, no external resource could ever give you that awareness. But the simple thing of writing things down, a behavior, an activity and practicing it will give it to you. And so that's why no book I saw had, well, they might have one or two exercises here or there, but they don't have an integrated, comprehensive progression that begins with something like writing it down. And then there's a few others after that that take not just what you write, not just the words at the word level, but then what are the words about? There's beliefs that are manifested in those words. And those beliefs affect how you perceive everything. I mean, you talked about, I remember from a while ago listening to you talking about when you went to compete for the first time against someone who was, I think, in the top 5 in the nation.
Yeah.
And am I right that a belief inside you changed beforehand of I couldn't do it to where I could do it or something?
Right.
It made me think of Bannister ran the 4-minute mile and suddenly a bunch of people did. They didn't change physically. Their beliefs changed. And so having access to those beliefs, that first exercise of writing down your inner monologue gives you access to how those beliefs work.
Does that bring up sort of beliefs that maybe you don't realize are holding you back? Because you bring that up about wrestling. Like as soon as after I won that match, I'd always for a long time sort of talked myself into believing that I could win a match of that caliber. And then once I won, I was so bummed that I was out of eligibility. I was done. My career was over. I was like, I can win the national championship now. Like, I know I can. Like, I didn't before. It was kind of like talking about it and saying it. Like now, it's like I know that I can. I had this deep-seated belief that was holding me back. These limiting thoughts that were in there, but they weren't really revealed. Is that what this process can do?
Yeah, and so a lot of people get that you can change a belief here and there, and sometimes they'll change a belief and they'll say, "Wow, that's amazing! My life has changed because I changed this belief." All right. That's great. What these exercises do is give you the ability to change beliefs in general. Any belief, anytime. Because a lot of people think, well, the world is just that way. I can't change how I believe it. But, look at like men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I'm not a scientist I'm a scientist, but not in that field. I don't know how accurate that book is. But I know that there are a lot of people who think, men and women, it's like they're from different planets. And when you get that, it helps a lot of relationships. Does it help every relationship? I don't know. But it definitely has helped a lot of relationships. Well, men are not from Mars. Women are not from Venus. We're all from Earth. But it's a belief that if you put it in your head, it's often effective. Yeah. And sometimes, and so a lot of times you're miserable. And if you look at your beliefs, sometimes you can change a belief and the misery goes away. And I've never found a situation in life where misery makes things better.
Right.
The big example, there's a book that I don't know, have you ever read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl? Uh-huh. To me, the biggest, I'm not going to get the quote perfect, but he says, when you're not able to change something, think of inoperable cancer as his example. You can still change how you believe things, what you believe about it. Right. And no one can take that away from you. And, inoperable cancer is one thing. He was in Auschwitz and he was able to find meaning and talk about bliss.
Sure.
And he wasn't able to change his environment at all. And it's like arguably the worst environment people have ever made for each other. And he was still able to do that. So that tells me, wow, one of my big lessons is if my material situation is better than, say, living in Auschwitz, if he could do it, I can do it. He didn't have a special brain. He didn't have any magical abilities. He was a human being like me. If he could do it, I can do it. And so, being aware of the beliefs gives you access. And then later exercises have you examine the beliefs and look at the beliefs that are the difficult ones to keep in your mind that still affect you, which are like the ones that make you unhappy or the ones that make you sad. Oftentimes we suppress and repress those beliefs. So I do some exercises to bring them up, not because I want you to make you feel bad, but it's difficult to grasp them. And when you do grasp them, then come the exercises on how to change them. Then the leadership ones are how to get other people's beliefs out in the open and start to change other people's beliefs. And that's leadership. And then you create the emotions in people, which is to say you motivate them. And, you talk about this being very practical. And if I had to make it anything, I want practical. There's a lot of theory in what I do too. Just like when your coach gave you exercises, he or she knew like what the theory was about your anatomy or how to learn how to do this, hold it, that, hold that. I can't speak knowledgeably about wrestling, but he or she knew the theory, but lecturing you on the theory wouldn't help you. They have to put the theory into exercises. And you probably pick your coach based on who's effective and experienced at choosing, at knowing which exercise is the appropriate one at the appropriate time. If you have to figure that out on your own, that is going to really detract you from your practice. But if someone else can do it from the outside because they've done it many times before, that can give you the freedom to completely dive into what you do without a second thought. Like, is this being effective or not? If you have to think that, you're not going to be able to commit someone.
And it sounds like in your book, from our conversation earlier, that you teach, and it sounds like there's like this, I got a master's in teaching. I'm a teacher by trade. You hit on a lot of sort of different learning styles. I mean, this is like writing exercises, it's reading, it's some theory, but it's also stories, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's two, maybe three main streams that I brought together into my course. So one was Marshall, because his practice is tremendously effective. Number one bestseller multiple times. He's been rated number one thinker, Harvard Business Review, all this. He's like incredible. And so following in his footsteps was not a difficult decision. Okay, so that's one. And I used a bunch of his exercises. Next is how my route into it was how we teach acting. And that was from watching Inside the Actors Studio and seeing these actors having these emotional and social skills that my leadership class in business school talked about but didn't develop. My teachers certainly couldn't act, couldn't behave, and couldn't evoke emotions and emote like these actors could. And I realized that they didn't go to business school. They didn't go to Ivy League schools. A lot of them dropped out of school. So I was like, so I learned how actors learn acting. So method acting, there's a long tradition of it. And I took classes in Meisner technique, which is a style of learning how to act. And I realized that it's the same structure that I've been talking about. They start with simple exercise and you build and build and build, and eventually you're doing some amazing stuff. And I took these classes, and a month into it, I was using technique to cry on stage, which, by the way, is a really weird feeling when you're crying because you've used this technique to conjure up emotions within yourself. And so there's a tear coming down, and part of you is like feeling the emotion that's drawing out the tear, and part of you is like, fist pump. Yeah, I did it.
I've always wondered how actors could do that. So there's a process, like anything. The more you learn about something, the more you learn. There is to learn. That's what my dad told me once. I was really motivated by a friend of mine who was one of the most charismatic people I know. If anyone I knew was like a natural leader, it was him. And he started taking these acting classes. This is 2008, 2009. His business was destroyed by the economy, and he reinvented himself as an actor. It's amazing to watch what's happening with him. And I kept saying all the stuff on Inside the Actors Studio. I'm learning about the tradition where it came from. Konstantin Stanislavski and Meisner and Stella Adler and people like that. And I kept asking questions. And finally he says, Josh, first he says to me, you show me the best actor in a room and I'll show you the one that works the hardest. And it makes a lot of sense from one perspective, but from another perspective, I'm like, how do you act hard? Is it like, are you sweating? Is it like you're lifting heavy weights while you act? I don't get it. And so I kept asking him, and finally he said, if you really want to get this stuff, take the classes. So I took the classes and I put everything I had into it because they were emotionally very demanding. And I learned technique. And so the technique to motivate, to conjure up emotions in acting are the same as a lot of the same skills that you have to motivate yourself in a sport. And that's what I realized is that style of teaching of an integrated, comprehensive progression of exercises from fundamentals to advanced. That's how you learn to act. It's how you learn to sing. It's how you learn to dance. It's how you learn to play basically every sport, every instrument, the military. And it's not traditional academic. These fields are active, social, emotional, expressive, performance-based. And it might not be the best way to learn chemistry or to learn philosophy. I don't know. I'm not a chemist or philosopher, but those are more, I think of them as less active and social and emotional. And all of these fields. So anyway, I looked at those, and how do you learn improv? It's the same structure. It's just different exercises. And okay, so now you see two pieces. One was Marshall having a couple exercises, and then acting and these other fields that have a progression of exercises. So, and meanwhile, I'm coaching
people using my style, using Marshall's style, and I'm developing more and more exercises. And I realized that when I looked at the exercises that I've been using coaching my clients for a long time, I realized that some of them were more entrepreneurial, and they kind of settled out into an entrepreneurship course. And some were more leadership-like, and they settled into the leadership course. And then some were more relationship-like. And so down the road, right now I have courses in leadership and entrepreneurship. I do coach in relationships, and I'm going to make a set of courses like this. So right now there's leadership and entrepreneurship. And the third piece is, I don't know if the name John Dewey means anything to you, but he was or Maria Montessori, a lot of people in the Montessori school.
Okay.
And
yeah, I know the name. Yeah.
So that's a style of learning that's more active and more experiential. And they have a lot of techniques that I use. For example, they're very big into reflection. And so after each exercise, when you do it in the book, I tell people to reflect and write it out, but I'm not sure how many people will do that. But when you take the course online, in order to get to the second exercise from the first one, you have to post your reflection. And after you do, you get to see it gets posted to the forum for that exercise. And then you get to see all the reflections that everybody did of all the people who did that exercise before you. And so you get to, when you write down your inner monologue, you have a different experience than everybody else. And so you get to see their experiences, and you get to learn from them, and you get to see how different people approach the same thing. And anyway, so that tradition of project-based learning, active experiential learning, that's another, and that's been tested and it's very rigorous. And so those three strands are what I put together. And, and then there's my experience of having led, having been CEO, having had the highs, the super high highs and the super low lows, and having gone through the emotional experiences myself. That's how it all comes together. And before writing the book, what made the book congeal was when I talked about how I had a bunch of exercises, but they weren't originally a linear progression. And once they fit together and that came together, there was no way I could not write the book. It was, the only way I wouldn't write it is if I died, and because it just wasn't out there. I mean, imagine no one knew how to play scale on the piano, and everyone was learning how to play piano by lecture, and you figured out scales. How could you not help people by telling them, how could you not tell people play these scales and you'll learn music theory a lot faster than if you just listen to people tell you about it?
Yeah. You're really on to some practical, actionable, real stuff that we can all use in our lives to be better parents, to be better leaders, to be better coaches, to be better entrepreneurs, employees, managers, etc. So you've given us two. It's enjoyable to be successful at anything. And so you've given us two exercises. Can we steal one more from you? So you've given us authentic voice, and you talked about writing your inner monologue. Would you mind or be willing to share one more of these exercises?
Sure. And again, I'll describe it, and nothing, no matter how well I describe it, it will never compare to your experience of doing it. So one of them that I got, this draws a lot from acting, is meaningful connection. And it's how to make a meaningful connection with someone really quick. It can be in under a minute. Usually it's a couple minutes. And for me, it's a huge alternative to, so where are you from? What do you do? How many brothers and sisters do you have? Small talk that keeps you, the reason people do small talk so much is that it's not meaningful. It's meaningless. And okay, so this one is based on a script. And the script is to start with by saying to someone, I usually say, what's your passion? When I meet someone for the first time, it's often the first thing I say to someone. Or maybe I'll say, hi, my name's Josh. What's yours? So, what's a passion of yours, if you don't mind my asking? And I usually add besides work and family, because not that people aren't passionate about their work and family, but because oftentimes they've had that conversation so many times, it's difficult to make it fresh.
Yeah.
And they'll usually give an answer that's kind of, I call it a cocktail party answer. It's a safe answer. It usually alludes to what they really like, but they don't want to be vulnerable yet because they don't know you. Even if it's someone you know pretty well, they often will kind of hedge their bets a little bit.
Sure.
And so now they don't want to feel vulnerable. And if you say to them, don't worry about being vulnerable, I will support you, I'm not going to make you feel bad, that doesn't work. Simply saying that is not effective. You have to. So the next stage in the script is to say certain things that will make them feel like you won't judge them and will support them. And that, what I say is to say, oh, cool. I know you have to think on your feet here. So it's a script, but it's actually, you have to think pretty fast. And the first couple of times it's hard, but by 5 or 10 times, this step is easy. So you say, I know someone like, oh, I know, say the person says they like to cook. So I might say, oh, my mom, she loves to cook too. For her, she says it's relaxing. And, when she cooks, she likes to de-stress at the end of the day and just feel like she's in touch with, the people around her. I have another friend who she likes to host dinner parties, and for her, cooking is a social thing. She likes to bring people together. Okay. So what I've done is I picked one person and give their motivation. I pick another person and give their motivation. And then I finish with, is that why you do it, or what's your reason?
Yeah.
And now the script says, pick one person, give their reason, pick another person, give their reason. What the person hears is, oh, Josh knows people who likes what I like. They're part of his life. He supports them. Chances are he'll support me too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's giving me an opening to share what I really care about. And so now they're going to give an answer. Oh, and they also usually feel like, I've had a lot of people do this exercise back to me because I do it I do a lot of corporate things, and I call someone up and say, does someone volunteer? And I do it one way, and then they do it back to me. So, and so like a pretty quick demonstration. And so when someone says that to me, like if I say I like to run marathons, and they say, oh, I know someone who exercises for this reason, I know someone who runs and it's for that reason, what's your reason? I have this thing like, no, it's not those. If you think I run for those reasons, you got me wrong. And I got to tell you what it is. So the person will give you a longer answer at this stage.
Yeah, they feel like they have to fill in the blank. They have to fill in their part of the story.
Yeah, it's both push that they have to and pull. Like this person really cares. He's not. If they say they like travel and you say, oh, you like travel? Me too. Let me tell you about Paris. It was such a great trip I just had. Then they're like, I don't want to talk to this person. They're talking about themselves. So following the script prevents you from doing things like that. So they give you this longer answer. And here's something that people who are listening who do sales, they probably know about this technique, is when people talk about something they care about, they often will stress a couple words, or they'll pick unusual words. And so you pay attention to what they're saying, but you really look for these, what I call meaning-carrying words, the words that carry the emotion. So if the person says, what were the examples that I had? Was it cooking? So if someone says, well, I like to cook, because cooking for me, it's like a symphony that I get to play. Like, that's a very interesting word, symphony. It's not something I would connect with food. So, hello?
Yeah, I'm listening. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
That's right.
I would say, oh, so it's like a symphony. So you basically ask a simple clarifying question back to them using each of those words one at a time. So if they say, usually it's 2 or 3 instances. So if they say, oh, I love cooking because it's like a symphony. And then later they're like, and blah, 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 blah. And it's, and then they say, it's so much fun. And when they say fun, they gesticulate and their eyes light up. So you would make a mental note. Okay, check with the words symphony and check with the words fun. And so you go, oh, so it's like a symphony for you. And now people listening, they didn't just use the word symphony. It's not a big meaning carrying word for them, but for the person who says it,
sure,
when they hear that word, they're like, yes. And if you were to say, oh, so it's like a sonnet, they're like, what? No. Don't try to paraphrase it into your words. Keep it in their words, because they put meaning into that for a reason. And if you use that word, you get all that meaning back. If you switch it, then they'll feel misunderstood. And so practice this exercise once or twice, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Practice 10 times, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize I could connect with people so much. And then when you go into interviews, you go into networking situations, you're stuck somewhere and you got nothing to do, but there's someone there. You want your teams to work more effectively together. You want to manage conflict. You want to resolve conflict. It's like magic. When the example I give in my book is when I met Frances Hesselbein, who is my mentor, Marshall Goldsmith's mentor. She won the Presidential Medal of Freedom, was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She was a CEO of the Girl Scouts for a long time. And in leadership, she's huge. And she invited me to her, I met her through Marshall, and she invited me for coffee at her office. And I sit down in her office. There's like pictures of her with all the presidents, all these generals, because she does a lot of work with West Point, and all these diplomats, and all around the office are all of her books translated into all these different languages. It's like, it can be pretty intimidating. And when I sit down, she sits down, and her face is like 2 feet from mine. And she looks me in the eye and she goes, "So what would you like to talk about?" And, she invited me. And what do you do when one of the great leaders says to you, "You lead me"?
Yeah.
Like, she's good at it. And I fell back on technique. I said, "Well, it looks like you got a passion for leadership. Is that a passion of yours?" She goes, "Yeah." I go, "Okay." And I say, "Well, I know Marshall does it for this reason, and I do it for this reason. What's your reason?" And 3 hours later,
wow,
her secretary came in for what was originally scheduled to be a half-hour coffee. We had lunch, and we were together for 3 hours. And her secretary was like, "Your next appointment's here. I'm sorry, we have to break." And she said, "This was the most delightful conversation you could remember."
Wow.
And she put me in touch with the managing editor of her leadership journal. And so in this summer, I'm going to have a piece coming out that came out of that conversation. She invited me to West Point, and it looks like that's going to happen later this year, which is one of the great honors of my life.
Yeah.
And, oh crap. I hope I don't jinx it. It hasn't happened yet. So, but if that happens, I very much look forward to it. I would love to. I have not served, and at 45 years old, maybe this is a way that I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think your book is going to serve a lot of people and serve this world very well. You've given us some really practical stuff here, Josh. And for the listener, I urge you to check out this book. I haven't gotten a copy yet. It's coming out here real soon, so I'm definitely going to get myself a copy and read it cover to cover. And I can see it being. I have a handful of books that I consider sort of desktop reference, and I imagine it just from having spoken to you about this before and hearing now more about it, I feel like this is going to be one of those kinds of books. So I really look forward to getting my hands on it. Josh, tell the listener where they can find the book.
Hello?
Oh, can you hear me? I feel like I lost you there a second.
Oh yeah, sorry, disconnected for a second. But
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So tell the listener where they can find you, follow you, where they can find the book, check out your courses, etc.
Okay, so the book will be on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and hopefully a bookstore near you. And as you and I are speaking now, it's before its release, but it comes out on February 16th. I imagine it'll be out by then.
It'll be out by then, yeah. This will be published after that.
Then my personal blog is at joshuaspodek.com, and that's where I write about my views on the world through my leadership perspective. It's where the Sid shot concept originated, and you can read about all my burpees and all my podcasts, all my blog posts and things like that. And there's also my contact page there, so I welcome emails from people. So just go there and you can reach me through there. And then there's spodekacademy.com, and that is where my courses live, and that's the professional site. And so my leadership course is there. My entrepreneurship course is there, and the other courses, when I get them up, will be there. And that's where the book has all the exercises for leadership. And if you're disciplined and diligent, and when you get to the end of each exercise, when it says stop, put the book down and go away and do it in real life with real people that matter to you, then you can, and when it says to reflect, you actually do reflect, you'll get the full value out of it. Although the online course is where you get the community. And so if you do the course online, then you get to, like I said before, when you write your reflections, you post them, you get to see everybody else's reflections, and people, when you know that other people will read yours, it leads you to think more thoroughly and to write more reflectively. So there's extra value that you get in the online courses. Eventually, I'll do online courses with a video component of like a real-time component where I interact with people. And then, there's a webinar that if you want to get more information than just what we covered here, then I guess contact me, because I have to give you the link to get to it, or you can just get on my mailing list.
Excellent.
And then on Twitter, I'm Spodek, so Spodek.
And I'll have links for that, to everything you just mentioned here, Josh. I'll have links to that in the action plan. So for the listener, you can just go to jimharshawjr.com/action, and I'll have a sort of a summary of all three of those exercises and a bunch of the other good stuff that Josh just gave us here in this discussion, as well as links to where you can find the book, follow him on Twitter, and all that good stuff. So, Josh, fascinating conversation as always. Thank you so much for making time to come on the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to help mark the enduring value of your podcast. And it was really a delightful conversation.
Well, let's do it again another time. And for the listener, until next time, take the time to get clear on your goals and embrace failure as a stepping stone on your path to success.